This is how the rebreathing anesthesia machine is set up. The rebreathing is used for patients over 10 kilograms, and I'm going to explain the order of oxygen flow throughout the whole machine. So first is the compressed gas cylinder, or the oxygen tank, and it supplies oxygen to the patient, and it's under very high pressure. It's about 2200 psi. After the gas cylinder, we move to the yoke, which attaches the oxygen tank to the machine, and it has a pin index system, so only oxygen can be attached and nothing else. After the yoke, we move to the pressure reducing valve, or the regulator, and it reduces pressure of oxygen coming out of the tank to an acceptable pressure for the machine, which is about 45 to 50 psi, and this is still not safe for the patient yet. And then after that, we move to the pressure gauge, which shows how much oxygen is left in the tank and can read the amount of PSI in the tank. Then we move to oxygen tubing. It's green to show it's pure oxygen. It's a transport piece, and it carries oxygen from the tank to the flow meter. Oxygen flow meter, it allows the anesthetist to monitor and control how much oxygen the patient is receiving. It's read in liters per minute, and it's where you set the flow rate. And this further reduces the PSI of oxygen from 45 to 50 to 15 to 20 PSI. And this is now safe for the patient. And this has to be set in order for oxygen to be able to flow through the machine. After the flow meter, we go to the vaporizer inlet. This is a connection piece, and it runs from the top of the flow meter and connects to the vaporizer. So then we have the precision vaporizer, which converts the liquid anesthetic into a vapor that can mix with the oxygen and then be delivered to the patient. After the precision vaporizer, we move to the vaporizer outlet, which is a connection piece from the vaporizer to this T-cross before the inspiratory valve. After that, we go to the reservoir bag, which we will also come back to in later steps. This stores gas and oxygen to provide a consistent supply to the patient, and this is used to perform IPPV, or intermittent positive pressure ventilation, or to bag the patient. And the bag needs to be a similar size to the patient's lung field. So after that, we have the negative pressure relief valve. It gets rid of the negative pressure. Oxygen and the anesthetic gas mixture must go through this first. After that, we have the inspiratory valve. It prevents backflow of gas from the patient to the vaporizer, so it's unidirectional, and it helps direct proper gas flow. So then we move to the inspiratory tubing for rebreathing. It is a transport tube, and it goes from the inspiratory valve to the patient via either an AT tube, a mask, and then after that, we go to exhalation tubing, which is another transport tube. It transports gas from the inspiratory tubing to the exhalation valve. Then we have the exhalation valve. It prevents backflow of exhaled carbon dioxide and the anesthetic gas to the patient, so it's unidirectional as well, and it also helps direct proper gas flow. So now this is one of two routes the gas can take once it's exhaled. This is the first. It will then move to the pop-off valve. This allows the gas out of the breathing circuit and directs it to either the scavenger, an outside system, or it's recirculated. It prevents damage to the patient's lungs, and it should always be open when the patient is attached. It should never be closed. After the pop-off valve, we move to the scavenge tubing, which is a transport tube, and it goes from the relief valve exhaust to the scavenger. So then we have the scavenger, and it has an absorber inside to collect excess anesthetic gas with a hole in the bottom to allow for airflow out. They can be active or they can be passive, which we have, and those can be either charcoal canisters or a vent. So then for the second route gas can take once it's inhaled, it will then go to the carbon dioxide absorber, which there's granules in the canister, which are soda lime, and that absorbs the carbon dioxide the patient has exhaled, so gas can be recirculated and rebreathed. After that, we move to the manometer. It shows the amount of pressure in the breathing circuit, and it can and should never be higher than 20 centimeters of water. And after that, we move back to the reservoir bag. It allows recirculated oxygen to return to the reservoir bag to wait for the patient to inhale. So now we have to perform a rebreathing pressure check. I skipped this piece because you should never use it while a patient is attached. This is the oxygen flush, and it flushes the machine with pure oxygen from the tank and bypasses the flow meter, so it's about 45 to 50 psi and not safe for the patient. And this is used to bleed the lines and perform pressure checks. So the first step for a pressure check is to connect the tubing, which I already have done. Next is to turn on the oxygen tank and to check the anesthetic and the tank to ensure there's enough oxygen and anesthetic available for the surgery. Next is to occlude or to put your finger into the inspiratory tubing and then close the pop-off valve. Then press the oxygen flush until the reservoir bag is full and the manometer reads 20 centimeters of water. We're going to give one squeeze and wait 30 seconds and watch the manometer for any slow leaks. After it's okay, we're going to open the pop-off valve, unocclude and remove the finger from the inspiratory tubing, and then empty the reservoir bag. So this is how the non-rebreathing anesthetic machine is set up. This is used for patients under 10 kilograms, and this is the order of oxygen flow throughout the non-rebreathing machine. So first is the oxygen tank, and then we move to the yoke, and then the pressure reducing valve, the pressure gauge, oxygen tubing, the oxygen flow meter, the vaporizer inlet, the precision vaporizer, the vaporizer outlet, and then it's connected to the inspiratory tubing, which goes to the patient, and then expiratory tubing, and then the reservoir bag, and then scavenge tubing and the scavenger. So to perform a non-rebreathing pressure check, the first step is to connect the tubing, which I already have, and then turn on the oxygen tank and check the anesthetic and gas to ensure there's enough for the surgery. Occlude, put your finger into the inspiratory tubing. We're going to close the pop-off valve. We're going to push the O2 flush and fill the reservoir bag until it's full. Give one or two squeezes, and listen throughout the circuit. After it's okay, we're going to open the pop-off valve, unocclude the inspiratory tubing or remove the finger, and empty the reservoir bag.